Welcome, Reds, to the 100% United pod. It's been another awful weekend for Manchester United. Well beaten 2-0 away at Watford. We've started the festive period in the worst possible fashion. I'm your host, TC. Here's my co-host, Scott. Hello, Scott.
Hi, TC. Thought this could be a lovely Christmas podcast, but I don't think that's going to happen today, is it?
Unfortunately not. Let's get stuck into this latest embarrassment. Truly disgraceful performance, Scott. Where do we go from here?
I don't know. It was funny. I remember in the last podcast, I remember saying after the Everton game, it felt like it was 2 steps back after a step forward. And I was wondering how many steps back we took after yesterday's display.
It was awful stuff, Scott. I mean, after the Everton game last year, not the Everton game last week, but last year, we were very, very critical. Ollie said before the Everton game, there's a different group of players. We're not going to be performing like that again. But I didn't see much difference between the performance on Sunday, Scott, and that desperate 4-0 smashing we got at Goodison Park last year.
No, other than them just being more clinical. Yeah. You know, Ollie said after the game that the first half felt like his testimonial. And I would hate to think that his testimonial would muster up as few chances as the first half did. So
yeah, Scott, I mean, to be honest with you, his testimonial was loads of fun.
Yeah.
And at the moment, watching United is not fun at all. Yeah. And it's something I want to touch on later in the podcast. Football is meant to be fun. It's meant to be a break from your usual life and a sort of a release.
Entertainment.
And at the moment, yeah, exactly. And at the moment, it really isn't for us United fans. Look, let's have a look at the lineups and the tactics first before getting stuck into this game and picking the bones out of it. We started with pretty much the same team. Well, exactly the same team. Has got those fantastic results against Spurs and City, Scott. So, like we said, I said before that Watford is going to be the big test. We're watching, I said it before, Everton, we're watching. It is so predictable at the moment, isn't it, Scott? It's just unbelievable.
It is, and you've got to say that that's his trusted lineup.
Shall I just run through it quickly? We've got De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka right back, Lindelof and Maguire, Shaw at left back. You've got McTominay and Fred holding the midfield. You've got Lingard in the number 10 role, in inverted commas. James, Martial and Rashford up front. I mean, to me, it's the number 10 role that's a massive problem with this system, right? Everything's going through the number 10, and we've got one number 10 who's Jesse Lingard, one number 10 who's Juan Mata. And I know we discussed it after the game, Scott, and you said, well, one's too slow and the other is not creative enough for a number 10.
Yeah, we need sort of a blend of the two.
Yeah.
I think that we can get away with playing Jesse Lingard as a number 10 if we have someone super, super creative playing behind him like Paul Pogba, as we did in the first 12 games of Ollie's reign. Don't forget, Pogba was playing, I think we were playing even more of a 4-3-3, weren't we? Because Herrera was there and Matic.
Yeah.
I have to say, after all the dreadful displays we've seen this season, being at Bournemouth and Newcastle and Crystal Palace and West Ham, the list goes on, this has got to be the worst. It's just awful. And you're saying earlier that football's supposed to be an enjoyment, it's not supposed to be a chore. Well, living on the west coast of America, I was up at 5:30, 6 a.m. watching this game, and talk about it not being a chore. It just ruins your whole day, and
I know.
I'm still a bit numb to it myself.
Yeah, it was awful, Scott, and unfortunately, like we said, it was so obvious, it was so predictable that it was going to go this way. Look, we started the game. There was no energy at all, was there? We had that one chance, Anthony Martial threading through to Lingard. What do you think of that, mate? I mean, he was one-on-one with the keeper. Ben Foster seemed to leave his near post pretty open. You could have just curled one in there. And Jesse went for the chip. Chips are great if they go in, but not so great if they don't, right?
Yeah, the kind of thing that you try when you're absolute peak of confidence, and the kind of thing you might be inclined to try when you're 2 or 3-0 up. I think at 0-0, maybe you be a bit more conservative and just try and get it on target. As we've known from having Ben Foster for years, he is, as you used to call him, a bag of nerves.
Yeah.
And you just need to get a shot on target. And to think we couldn't even do that, even if it was a rubbish one, which is unforgivable.
It was, Scott, and tell me, why are we setting up the same every time, right? We're playing against these teams that have less personnel than us. We have stronger players than them. We have a stronger squad. We have a stronger first team than them. We keep on setting up the same way, and it keeps on not working. So I don't understand why we keep on doing it. I mean, in life, in my experience, if you try something a few times, it doesn't work. It's quite a good idea to change it. I mean, we're playing two holding midfielders, and then we're playing Lingard as our creative hub. I mean, it's obviously not going to work, right? I mean,
no, you could sort of see how tired Marcus Rashford was, and how he needed a break and maybe didn't need to play the whole game home to Colchester. You sort of see the lack of squad depth that we have, that we're trying to muster our way through this period, and everyone's just, I mean, at 60 minutes gone, we're chasing the game 2-0 down, and it just we didn't have any energy, didn't have any urgency.
And look, Scott, we're playing two holding midfielders. We're playing number 10 there, Jesse Lingard. 25 hours in the Premier League without a goal or an assist.
Yeah.
I mean, 25 hours, Scott. I mean, I think you or I would struggle to get through 25 hours without making some kind of an effect on the game. I mean, how is that even possible?
I don't know. And he went through such a purple patch, didn't he? That season he scored, 12, 15 goals, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you want to be honestly ruthless and start pointing fingers, you have to say that it comes from managerial inexperience. He just doesn't... I don't think he has the tactical nous to have a plan B or a plan C. And it just looks like we go out there and we're so one-dimensional. You know, at least the great thing about Fergie's teams was he was able to sort of change our tactics and change the way we played without making any substitutions.
Mm-hmm.
The players would just play differently. But as I said last week, the players we had back then, we took them for granted. They were absolutely world-class, streaks ahead of their time players that we don't have anymore. And we can't just kick it up a gear and turn it up a notch when sometimes it's all we've got, and it's just not good enough.
That's true, Scott, but we're playing against Watford. They're rock bottom of the Premier League.
Yeah.
They're 20th position.
I know.
If they doubled their total of points, they would still be in the relegation zone. They are awful, absolutely awful.
Marcus Rashford had scored more goals than their entire team.
Exactly. So these excuses, I understand if we're playing a team that has got a personnel and a squad that is our equal or better. But there's no way anyone can convince me that our squad, our personnel, our first team is inferior to Watford's. They're rock bottom of the league. They're 20th position, and we should be smashing them. It's as simple as that. I know you predicted 3-0 and 3-1. I know you were hoping for 3-0, 3-1, but the truth is, hand on heart, before this game, we knew this was the one that was going to get us. We knew we were going to drop points.
Yeah.
We don't want to spread negativity on the podcast, but it was so bloody obvious coming into this game that we intimated that this is a big bloody danger, and it just went exactly how we'd expect.
Yeah. It's funny, last time you were talking about the possession stats, right? And to the end of the first half, maybe around half-time, maybe, the stats came up and it showed that they had more possession than us. I think it was 56-44. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, that's great, right? This bodes well. Yeah.
Absolutely mental. That's the way of thinking now, right? I did notice BBC and Sky have picked up on the possession debate now as well. Maybe they listen to the pod, picking up some stats from me. I'm the stat man. But the truth is now it's spreading. And then this is a bad thing for Ollie because, we're talking one win out of 17 with a higher than 50% possession stat in the Premier League.
Oh, no. We've got more points against the top 6 than we have against the bottom 14.
I know.
It's insane.
I mean, 3 of our last 6 defeats, Scott, have been with teams sitting in the relegation zone.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing.
Unfortunately, it gets worse, Scott, because Watford went into this game with 12 home matches without a win.
Yep.
And they pounded us 2-0. Absolutely pounded us.
We've had 4 managers this year. 4 managers this season.
So let's dig into the goals. On the 50th minute, we had... do we even call that a shot, Scott?
I don't know.
From Ismail Assar, he's hit it into the ground. It's bounced up. It's gone through De Gea's hands. It hit him in the face and then gone in the top corner. It's just a blooper of all bloopers. Absolutely shocking stuff.
The worst one. The worst one, right? Worse than Arsenal. Worse than Barcelona. No, not the worst one ever, but his worst one.
Yeah, that's what
Out of this dreadful run of form he's had for the last year, I'd say last 12 months. No, maybe not 12 months, sorry. I'd say it all started to really go downhill when March, April.
I would say it was the World Cup.
Well,
I would say it's the World Cup when he had that game, and it's been creeping since then, I think.
Well, this is the worst. Like, this howler is the worst one. I mean, I know he chucked one in at Barcelona. He chucked one in at or just got wrong-footed from shot 35 yards out at Arsenal.
There was a dodgy one at
last
Everton
year.
too, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was that. Well, I call it dodgy. You said it was hard, Richarlison, right? I remember that. But
yeah, I know. Well, Richarlison and Sigurdsson as well.
Yeah, you're right. That Sigurdsson one.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. I'd blanked that from my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think the worst thing about it was his reaction to it.
I know.
And his face was in the grass, and you just thought, Well, he's inconsolable. No one even went up to console him or to pick
Give
him
him a
up.
pat on the head.
Nothing.
I know.
It's funny that there's this culture that's been brought to basketball now that players spend a lot of time on the floor in basketball. They get knocked over, this and that. And now there's a culture that you never get yourself up. You wait for one of your teammates to bring yourself up.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. I was sort of watching that, thinking to myself, well, who's going to be the first to go and get him? It's probably going to be Maguire or maybe Lindelof. And then no one. He just sat there. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
It was truly, truly awful. A real goalkeeping blooper. And as we've said, it's been coming again and again with David De Gea. We did say, I mean, I did say on the pod at the end of last season, I was like, his form's not good enough. I'm happy to cut him loose if he wants to go. It had got to that stage at the end of last season, and obviously he signed on, he stayed. I still think his body language is not quite right, Scott. I still think there's he doesn't seem like our old Dave anymore. He really doesn't.
I think we just lost Emilio Alvarez. But I think you've actually got to say that regardless of, he got dropped in the Europa League or this and that, he was actually pretty close to Jose. And he was close down to Herrera. And I know you say that you don't add a lot of credence to players playing with people that they like, but I think that you get rid of 3 or 4 people that he's been close to in the last year or so, and his form and his personal life is going to drop a bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll correct that, Scott. I think what I say is that I don't think people move on the whole, 99% of the time because of someone being there. But at the same time, of course, your life's better, right? Of course, your life's better if you've got people around you who you love and who you get along with fantastically. If you're going out for dinner a few times a week with your mates, your life's better, isn't it? Than not. Of course it is. I do understand that as well. I do understand the human side of it. So Herrera going would have had an effect, and obviously Emilio Alvarez, they were out for dinner all the time, weren't they, that pair? So I do understand that side of it, Scott. But at the same time, you're a professional footballer, you're getting paid hundreds of thousands of quid a week to be best prepared mentally, physically on the Saturday or the Sunday or the Tuesday or the Wednesday, or whatever it might be, or Thursday in our case. Yeah, it's his responsibility, isn't it, to leave whatever is in his personal life to the side and perform for us at the weekend or in midweek.
Yeah, I think you can sort of see this all sorts of professional sports, that when players are in their contract year, they call it, the last year of their contract, that they start playing out of their skin, right? And then as soon as they get this enormous contract and they're making absolutely unbelievable amounts of money, your life changes, and it's inevitable, it's unavoidable. And you see it with a lot of footballers everywhere. I think it happens in all sports, as I say. And I think that maybe this, signing this enormous, really long contract, he's got sort of nothing to work towards on a professional level. I know he wants to win trophies and this and that, but
those trophies seem so far away, right? That is one problem. I do think Dave is sort of, he's like our fans. He's seen it all, hasn't he? He's won the title with us. He's seen the good times, but he's also, I think, been worn down a bit by the bad times. One thing I will say, Scott, though, is he was playing rubbish when we gave him his new contract. So yeah. Let's not get that one twisted. Normally people play fantastically, get their new contract and drop the ball, whereas De Gea was dropping the ball long before that. That's the truth. Come on.
Yeah.
And we still chucked at him.
Yeah, I think his sort of drop in form coincided with the beginning of these talks last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was the worst mistake I've ever seen him make, and his worst reaction. And I sort of did. I just felt awful for him, and felt that I wish that there was more unity within the squad, that someone would have gone over to pick him up. I think that Patrice Evra or Rio Ferdinand probably would have gone over to pick him up off the floor.
Yeah, I agree, Scott. And then also, we've got Harry Maguire skipping the side, and he's really working his way into the squad, feeling his way into the club, and working his way into form as well. He's not in great form himself. So if he's your captain, of course there's not a lot of leaders around the team. Of course he's the captain. There's no other blooming challengers, but there's just not that man to pick him up, Scott. There's not, Lindelof struggling with his own with his own stuff going on, Maguire too. So David De Gea was left on his own, really. But what I was going to say, mate, is that people who are saying David De Gea made a blooper, and of course we conceded a penalty as soon after. So people are saying, look, it's 2 mistakes. It's 2 mistakes. But in those 50 minutes before those 2 mistakes, we didn't have a shot on target, mate.
Yeah.
So it's all very well, but I mean, of course, you're gonna get caught with your pants down if you're not threatening at all. And we know against Watford, we know Troy Deeney is going to get a penalty. We know he's going to score it in 4 out of the 5 seasons in the Premier League. He scored a penalty against us, so it's just par for the course, isn't it?
Yeah. It just looked like the same old thing, right? It looked like the same team we were playing earlier in the season. Alkmaar, we went away and didn't have a shot on goal the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
Unwatchable.
Shocking.
Sheffield United go away, concede 2 goals. And I was actually, as well, after we conceded the goals, I was like, well, don't worry, we've got this burst in us that we can just come out and score 3 times in 12 minutes and everything will be fine. I don't know. I think that this crazy, hectic schedule is maybe catching up with some of these players. I mean, Marcus Rashford, I don't think, touched the ball for the first half hour of the game. Yeah, I think just too much to ask too soon.
You know what the worst thing is that all our rivals, all the rival fans, they must be cleaning up at the bookies on us, because literally before this game I saw Watford were 5-6 to 1 and I was like, if I was a neutral, I'll be piling on that. I can't do it. I can't bet against Manchester United. I never do it. But I saw those odds and I'm like, everyone's cleaning up. And you know what? At 2-0 down, I looked at the odds. It was United. We were 25 to 1 to win the game. And I almost bloody put a tenner on it. And I was like, stop it. Stop it. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Just stop it. So I didn't waste my money, but it was really, really shocking stuff. Look, after we went 2-0 down, we did react all right to it. We did chuck on some subs. We had Mason Greenwood replaced Danny James on the 58th minute. So just 4 minutes after the Deeney penalty. So first of all, let's just touch on the Deeney penalty. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, are you faulting him for that? Graham Souness slammed into him, said that he goes to ground too much. I don't see him mistime too many challenges, so I don't think that's really a fair criticism for Souness. I don't care how someone stops someone. I'd rather someone smash them, if I'm honest. And he doesn't concede too many fouls or get booked all the time. So I think Souness is wide of the mark there. What do you think?
I think first off, you should never listen to what Souness says ever in
I
life.
try not to.
It's just the ramblings of the most embittered man you've ever heard in your life.
Of course it is.
I thought Wan-Bissaka actually played really well. He had made some fantastic challenges, was directly responsible, you got to say, for us keeping a clean sheet up until a few minutes earlier. Mm-hmm. And he's sort of made so many fantastic tackles out of the blue that he's had no business making, that I personally can give him a get out of jail free card for that. I'm not gonna slate him like Souness did or anything. He was perhaps on the ground too soon, but he got wrong-footed, and it's happened to so many of our defenders over the years that I see how easy it is. And for him to have gone this long without conceding a penalty, given how many tackles he's made in the box, is pretty remarkable, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you, Scott. I'm not slamming him for that at all. I like a defender who smashes people up. He doesn't miss time too many. I don't think he goes to the ground unnecessarily. I don't think he's out of position. I don't think he gets skinned. I think he just lines them up and smashes them. So he shouldn't have made the challenge, but I'm not going to sit here and slam him off for that at all. Deeney smashed home the penalty. Look, David De Gea, it's been 15 penalties in the Premier League. He hasn't saved one. I think you'll probably remember the Leighton Baines save. Superb save in that game. He had an absolute belter. Saved that unbelievable shot. I think it was from Baines as well, right?
Yeah.
In the top corner, just off the chain from Dave. But he hasn't saved a penalty since then.
Yeah.
So more sorry stuff. But as I was going to say, we did chuck on some subs. Mason Greenwood came on for Danny James on the 58th minute. And then the return of Paul Pogba on the 64th minute, replacing Jesse Lingard, back after, when did he last play? At the end of September, was it?
Yeah, September 30th.
30th, yeah.
Yep.
You have to say he played very well when he came on. I personally, with the formation we're playing, if we're going to play a 4-2-3-1, to me, the logical solution short term is McTominay and Fred stay holding the midfield and we put Pogba in the number 10 role. To me, he's far better there than Mata and far better there than Lingard as well. Surely that's where we've got to be going until he throws his toys out of the pram or gets injured again, I suppose.
Yeah, and you can sort of see, as soon as he did come on, certain things sort of click with the team, and how you can maybe see that this team has been made to be built around Paul Pogba, and without him, that we've had, the last 3 months, and a month before that as well, 3 weeks before that. It just hasn't worked. I know there have been certain games, as with City and with Tottenham, that we've hit a few teams on the break and scored a few goals, but overall this team just has looked disjointed, has looked just out of ideas when it comes to going forward. It's funny that usually with an attacking midfielder, when you give them a license to roam and say, you've got a free roll, they sort of like to drift forward. And with Pogba, he actually likes to drift backwards and sort of pick out these outrageous passes. So playing him in the number 10 role is dangerous because it sort of still gives you those big gaps in the middle. But I think maybe we can revert back to that 4-3-3 that we played when Ollie first came in. I think McTominay can,
I wish we would.
yeah,
I wish we would, Scott.
McTominay can add that industrious role that Herrera was playing, and I think Fred's really found his feet the last few months. He could sort of play that defensive midfield that Matic was playing.
Yeah.
We could just create something. It was incredible to see just how much better he is than all of our players when he comes on. I know Marcus Rashford's been in the form of his life, but in terms of just raw talent, vision, ball control, he's just streaks ahead of everybody else. And I was surprised. I personally didn't think we were ever going to see him in a United shirt again.
I mean, I thought he would come back a couple of weeks before the window opens. But I will say with Pogba, don't forget that we have dropped a lot of points with him as well. We've played games where we've stunk the place out, and Pogba's been playing too. Look, when he comes back in, he wants to show off. He wants to show he's the man. I know he can show he's the man. I wish I was as skillful and I mean, had the physique that Paul Pogba had as a footballer. It's an unbelievable blend. But his mentality, and you know what, Scott, it's the whole squad's mentality. I said on the pod last week, I think the problem with this team is the mentality. I don't think it's the playing ability. Look, we've just smashed Spurs and City, and we dispatched them easy. So why? These players are good enough. It's the mentality. It's the mentality that's been letting us down for years now. And it's the same players. We said we're getting rid of the deadwood. Everyone talks about the deadwood that we got rid of. But the thing is, the deadwood seem to be doing fine. Smalling shining at Roma. Lukaku scored 2 for Inter at the weekend and an assist as well. Anyone who says they're Serie A's rubbish, he's scoring more than Ronaldo, all about the same. The truth is that Romelu Lukaku used to dispatch teams in the lower half of the table with ease, and we've got rid of him from that position. And now we can't beat any of the lesser teams. All we can do is play against the big teams. So to me, again, I have to say that letting him go without a replacement was a massive, massive error going into the season.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, and I have agreed with you.
Yeah,
it's funny. I remember when we got him. I remember thinking to myself, he's going to be the difference to drawing. I mean, we used to draw a hell of a lot of games, specifically at home to the lower teams, and he was sort of brought in to get us that goal to push us over the edge. And now here we are at that point again that we can't score against teams that are playing multiple men behind the ball as well. I don't know. It's so difficult to analyse it and to sort of find positives within it because there really weren't.
I know. And 2 days to Christmas. It's fantastic, isn't it? Well,
yeah.
What a joy.
Yeah.
So, mate, as expected, possession 64% for us, 36% for us. For them, for Watford. So we lose the game or drop points as usual, as we touched on a couple of pods ago. 17 shots for us, 11 for them. 8 on target for us, 3 for them. 5 corners for us, 3 for them. 11 fouls for us, 16 for them. A lot of those were after we were already 2-0 down, of course, and Pogba was on. You have to say Pogba had a monster chance that he should have taken. I don't care how good it was, but he should have taken that. And Marcus Rashford had an even better chance. I thought it was Mason Greenwood when he came onto the left. I couldn't believe he missed it. And then when they said when I saw it was Marcus Rashford, I was like, oh yeah, really, 2 really bad misses. I
think the worst thing about it was there have been quite a few times the last few years that you sort of concede defeat and you say, oh, it's just not going to be one of our days. It's just one of those days, right? Just not going to be one of our days. And to do that with about 25 minutes to go was just the weirdest feeling I've ever had. It usually happens with a couple of minutes to go and you think, okay, it's not mathematically possible to do it anymore. But sort of do it and you're like, yeah, we're 2-0 down. A consolation, we might get a consolation, but that's all we can really hope for.
Like I say, mate, I saw the 25-1, and of course I think Manchester United are going to come back into it, but it's been too many times now, Scott, and I was like, nah, this is silly. Ollie, after the game, what do you make of his comments? He was again sort of skirting around the questions when he was asked. He was asked a question, wasn't he? He was asked a question that we were asked. What is the difference? Why? Spurs and City, why was there such a difference in performance? And we answered the question. We said that, look at the stats. When we don't have any possession, we're a better team. And Ollie totally avoided the question. He just gave an answer to a different question. I didn't like his vibe in the after-match interview, if I'm honest. I thought it was totally off. And to be honest with you, I don't know what has changed since last season. This deadwood nonsense that people talk about, it's the same attitude. That the attitude in the team still stinks. And getting rid of Lukaku and Smalling and Herrera has not helped that. They were three good players.
No, I mean, I think the number one thing you can point to is the fact we brought in one attacking player in the last year, and the problem's been scoring goals, and we've let go
from the Championship as well.
Yeah, from the Championship, and another one from the youth academy. Let's not forget, and he's our second top scorer. And Dan James, you got to think he's probably leading us in assists, right?
Yeah, and Lukaku wouldn't mind getting on the end of a few Danny James's balls.
Can you imagine? Or Sanchez as well, just having a dual threat.
Well, Sanchez is still our player, mate. I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it?
But he's not coming back. Don't worry about that. But I think the fact that we broke the world, we broke the world record for a defender. We spent 55 on another defender. Papered over the cracks of not spending enough money and not strengthening the side. Now, the problem was that we needed to strengthen the side in about 7 different areas. Now, we did that in 2 different areas, but the absolute glaring hole in the middle is in the number 10 position. We've got, as you say, Jesse Lingard. He's a nice player to bring off the bench. He's a player close to our hearts. He's a youth academy player, but he's not a world-class number 10. He's not anything close to it.
When you're talking about the creative hub of your team, Lingard, Mata, or Andreas Pereira, it's crackers, mate.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, it is. It's crackers. Honestly, when it's getting silly now, it really is. Like I say, the festive period is one of my favourite times of the year. We got a Boxing Day game against Newcastle coming up. I'm not even looking forward to it. I just know that we could be in for another absolute shocker. Who was your worst player of the match, Scott, instead of a man of the match?
I don't know. I'd probably have to say David De Gea.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And your man of the match, do you even have one or not? Because if you don't, that's fine by me.
I would actually probably say Wan-Bissaka, even though he gave away a penalty. He was actually the only one who, first, he didn't give up and actually showed some quality to push us forward. I thought that the front four were just so anonymous that I actually, as I say, the game kicked off at 6 a.m. for me. I woke up at 5:45 to make a pot of coffee, and I didn't actually see the lineup. I didn't realise Marcus Rashford was playing until about 20, 25 minutes in. He hadn't touched the ball for the first, as I say, 15, 20 minutes. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I must say that I think Wan-Bissaka's a fantastic defensive fullback, but I do think our fullbacks are one of our biggest problems. I do think, look, again, when we've got lots of possession, when we are dominating a team, I want to see Wan-Bissaka and Shaw right up there. I want to see them creating chances. I want to see them interlinking. I want to see them providing some width, so our front three can find some gaps within their the opposition's back four. I do think that our fullback play, in terms of the link up, it's just non-existent, isn't it? I mean, they just for all the great United teams, you always look at the fullback and the winger combos, don't you? You say, oh, blooming hell, Gary Neville and David Beckham over there, or Patrice Evra and Ryan Giggs, or whatever it might be. You always look at those link-ups between the winger and the fullback as to be a little alternate creative hub. But we haven't got number 10 creating, but we've also got nothing being created between the fullbacks and the wingers. There seems to be no relationship.
No, you're right, and it puts more pressure on the wingers. But I think the one glaring thing you're missing is the fact that neither of them are very good crossers of the ball.
Yeah.
So even if they get in good positions, very rarely do things actually happen. Now, Wan-Bissaka is 21, 22, and you can sort of...
You can understand he's developing, right, as a fullback.
Exactly.
He's a converted winger. You can understand that. But then Luke Shaw on the other side, however...
Yeah, he's had, 5 years we've said he's been in our club, and touted as being one of the best in England. And he gets himself in great positions and puts in a good cross every now and then, but not when you need it and not when someone's wide open in the middle. I don't think you can blame the fullbacks for not putting in good crosses. They're just not very good at it.
No, I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying that we haven't got creation coming from the number 10 role. We haven't got the creation coming from the deep midfield role. We've got a bunch of speed merchants up front, which is fantastic. But then we haven't got any creation from the fullbacks. We've got no link up between the fullbacks and the wingers. And it's no surprise we're not creating any chances, Scott.
Yeah, completely agree.
Unfortunately. Look, we have Newcastle on Boxing Day. Normally, Boxing Day is my favourite. I love Boxing Day. It's the Boxing Day match. That's my day. But like I said before, I'm not looking forward to it at all. You think Pogba will start on Boxing Day 26th?
He might. We might need to squeeze all the football we can get out of him before the January transfer window.
Why on earth not? Why on earth not, Scott? Did you see Lukaku's comments saying that he felt that all the blame for everything was on him and Pogba, and he actually spoke to Pogba to say he wanted to leave? and that he basically thought that he was the scapegoat. Him and Pogba were the scapegoat for the downfall of Manchester United.
Yeah, I bet him and Sanchez have the same conversation in Milan every day.
Yes, but what do you make of that? I mean, it's obviously not true. And in my experience, if everyone's saying that you're responsible for the downfall, you prove them wrong, right? You don't jump ship and run away.
I think there is a certain pressure on the Manchester United number 9 to score goals every game, as there is a pressure on us to win every game. And let's be honest, he missed some shocking chances, and he gets criticised for that.
He did, and I must say, Scott, I'll interject there. He missed one chance against Arsenal, which ended our run. Right, he hit the bar, and it was an absolute.
It was harder to miss.
It was awful.
Anyway,
it was absolutely awful. But at the same time, you know, when you've got those comments coming out, and then Pogba's still at the club, it is certainly a worry, isn't it?
Yeah, listen, it's not brand new information for us to know that Paul Pogba was unsettled.
No, but Scott, the thing is, right, is Lukaku said that Ollie was begging him to stay. And so Ollie wanted him to stay, and Lukaku wanted to go. And I have to say that's bad management, that Ollie's made Lukaku feel like he is not wanted. He doesn't want him to be there. And then Lukaku's jumped ship, and then Ollie's sort of like, well, I wanted him to go anyway. But behind closed doors, he was trying to persuade him to stay. And then we had this big mess on the last day of the transfer window. We rushed the transfer through when we didn't need to. The Italian window was open for another 2 weeks. I still don't know what went on there. It was bonkers. And we lose someone who bangs in the goals against teams like Watford. And now we're just bleeding points against teams like
I think one thing you're missing in that was Ollie Solskjaer wanted him to stay, but where did he want him to play? You know, he was fed up of playing on the wing.
Yeah.
Ollie probably said he wanted him to stay and be a squad player, and he's going to play up front sometimes, but he's going to play on the wing sometimes. And he wanted to go somewhere that he was the out-and-out number 9, played up front every week. And maybe he didn't want to play to such a lesser degree, but you know, Ollie still wanted him to stay, but didn't trust him to be his number 9 week in, week out.
It's funny you say that, Scott, because we've discussed on the pod before, haven't we, that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did such an amazing job on the right wing and displaced David Beckham. Do you think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to be a winger as well?
No, but he definitely sacrificed more for the team, didn't he, than you can see Romelu Lukaku doing. Even though he was a good teammate, he was a good United player. He got fed up in the end, and one of those that you've got to say falls under the category of couldn't deal with the pressure of being a United first-team player.
I think that's a fair point, I think, Scott. And really, I'm not griping about Lukaku leaving. I'm griping about Lukaku not being replaced. That's the truth.
Right.
You know, I see him banging the goals I knew he would. And I'm not saying we should have kept him. I'm saying if we did get rid of him, we should have replaced him. And that's what we said at the time. Did you hear the comments from the Leipzig chief about Erling Haaland saying that they can't really compete with the big clubs coming in, Juve, Borussia Dortmund and Manchester United. And it looks like they're not going to get it over the line. So it's going to be a straight shootout. And it does look like we're leading the race.
Yeah, let's not get too excited, though. Because I do think if we do get him, which is still a big if, he will be loaned back for the rest of the season.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I have to go against you, Scott. I can't see that happening.
Okay.
But I'm just trying to get a bit of Christmas cheer in this pod because it's been a bit of a misery, hasn't it?
It has, but it seems like everyone's a bit fed up at the moment. You know, everyone's either sacking their manager. It looks like Mourinho's already fed up. I would have hated to have Mourinho still as the boss with VAR in play, because it looks like him and VAR are just a recipe for disaster.
I think so. Listen, let's wrap this up. Thanks for listening again. Remember to subscribe, 5-star review, and send us your questions. We've got our end of decade review coming up, so touch bases with us if you have any questions. Instagram at United100podcast or email United100podcast@gmail.com. Merry Christmas to all the Reds around the world. Hope you have an absolute belter. And Merry Christmas to my old pal Scott. Cheers for everything.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Cheerio, Reds.
Ta-ra.